the Dynamic Duel podcast, where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in crossover battle simulations. I'm Johnny DC.
And I'm sick. I'm super sick.
Super sick.
Just full disclaimer at the top of the episode. I have like a really bad cold, and I know that at some point my voice is just going to sound like gravel as we continue through this podcast, probably as we get through the review. Oh, I am Marvelous Joe, by the way, his twin brother.
I was going to say, don't forget to introduce yourself. We're doing a review this episode going way back over 10 years ago to V for Vendetta.
Yeah, great film.
Really good. It's one of my favorite films, and I've been waiting like over a year to do this.
So, some people may balk at the idea of this being a DC film, but it is branded as a DC film. Like, you see the DC logo before the credits or before the opening of this movie.
It's definitely not like in any... It's not in the DC universe, right? He doesn't interact with any other like superheroes or anything like that. But it was published by DC Comics.
Yeah, like Watchmen, and we reviewed that.
Yeah.
So the guest for this episode, for this review, will be our good friend and ex-coworker Mike Cusick, who is a great, insightful guy who absolutely loves this film. So it'll be a lot of fun talking to him about it.
Yeah. But before we get into that, as always, weekly news breakdown. Now that we're a weekly podcast, we're going to be talking about the Teen Titans Go teaser trailer, which is fun. It's fun, nice and short, but fun. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of like X-Men related news.
Oh, yeah.
Dates shifted around.
News
and
bombs
stuff.
just dropped.
Yeah, totally. And then we're going to be talking about Jac Shaeffer being hired on to write the Black Widow movie. But first, it's time for our no prize announcement.
Yes. So we have our new question of the week segment that we're doing this year, where we post our favorite answer from a question that we asked the previous week.
Right.
So last week's question that we asked you guys, the listeners, was, what do you think is the one most important thing Walter Hamada can do to fix the DC Films universe?
And as we discussed last week, Walter Hamada was just put in charge of DC Films. On Facebook, we had user CJ Craft reach out to us and give us his answer, which was, I would love to see an Injustice film. Something about an evil supes is just win for me. But I think using the new films to focus on the heroes and flesh them out more. Better villains too, please. CGI Steppenwolf, Eck. Well, CJ, that's 3 things you would want to do.
So we're just going to pick our favorite one out of this, which I think is using the new films to focus on the heroes and flesh them out more.
Yeah, I mean, exactly what Wonder Woman was. We need that for each characters, for each of the Justice
Flash,
League characters.
Green Lantern,
yeah. Right.
Cyborg.
Now that we've had Justice League, now we know these characters. Just give us really good stories with them.
I would like a Superman movie in the vein of the Wonder Woman film.
Oh, absolutely.
Something a little bit more hopeful. Like, at the beginning, he mentions evil supes. I think I don't want to see evil supes. I'm done with that. Like, I think we've seen enough of the dark Superman. We got a preview of that in Batman vs. Superman with the nightmare sequence. Mm-hmm. I want to see the same character that appeared in the Justice League film.
I think if you're a comic book fan, then Evil Supes is interesting. But if you're not a comic book fan, then Evil Supes is not appealing at all to you. Because you have this idea of Superman. And if he deviates from that idea, then people get upset, as we've seen.
Yeah.
So I think we need to move exactly away from Evil Supes.
You know what they should do? Is they should do an animated film. Because DC's really good with their animated division. I think they should do an animated Injustice film.
Oh, for Injustice? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
Injustice would be great as an animated film. And technically, that already exists. If you played the game, then all the cutscenes form together to form a film. And you could, watch that right now on YouTube.
Really?
It's, 2 hours long.
Yeah, but is it like, oh, we're walking, and then all of a sudden we see somebody to fight? Get in your fighter pose. And then you
see, the aftermath.
And then you see the aftermath.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that doesn't work for me.
It's fine. It's fine.
I want to see, a real, in the same vein of, the Bruce Timm style Injustice kind of. I'd like to see that.
Even more than, the Injustice storyline, I'd rather see, the Injustice prequel comic made into an animated film. Because to me, that was more interesting than the actual Injustice storyline.
Oh, really?
Just, how everything built up to what the Injustice game was was super interesting, I thought.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Well, congrats again to CJ Craft. Thanks for writing into us.
Yeah.
And you'll win this week's No Prize, which is a JPEG that Jonathan will draw up that we post to all of our social media accounts that has your name on it. Good sir. Well done.
Yep.
All right. And we'll go ahead and we'll be asking another question of the week.
During our news
segment.
So stay tuned.
Let's get into the news.
So, Teen Titans Go. The first teaser trailer came out, and I've become a pretty big fan of Teen Titans Go. In fact, like I'm pretty sure my daughters are upstairs right now watching it.
Every time I come to your house, your daughters are watching Teen Titans Go.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I started watching an episode the other day.
Yeah.
And Robin was like teaching Beast Boy was teaching Starfire about the concept of lying. And it was just a hilarious show. It was like, I'm not into Teen Titans. I never watched the original Teen Titans series. Definitely haven't watched this show. Mm-hmm. Not even a huge fan of the Titans, being a Marvel guy. But I have to say that it's a pretty hilarious show.
It's a well written show, I think. I mean, especially if you're a comic book fan and you're able to understand all the different references and throw away lines they do. Yeah. Like there was an episode where Robin, everyone lost their memory, so Robin was like telling them about how he's like the greatest. He like created all of them and he has all these superpowers. And he was like, in Starfire, did you know that? Because she forgot that she knows English. So he was like, did you know that you could speak English just through lip contact? What? She punches him, yeah. But that's actually a thing from the comics.
Oh, really?
Is that Starfire, when she first came to Earth, she learned English by kissing, I think it was Dick Grayson.
Oh, really?
And that she's able to absorb language that way for some unknown reason. Huh. But, it's just things like that. It's just super fun to see. As for the trailer...
I don't know how many listeners are actually interested in the Teen Titans Go movie, but if you haven't seen the trailer yet, be sure to watch it.
It's on Hulu.
Just kind of like don't watch the show necessarily. Watch the trailer.
Oh,
and just kind of get a feel for the vibe of what they're going for here. I think it's gonna be funny. I mean, it looks worth your time.
I mean, also I think if you haven't seen Teen Titans Go the show, like watch that too. I mean,
I don't have time for cartoons.
It's a good show.
It is, though.
If you do have time for cartoons, definitely check it out. If you've been put off by what people say about it online, like maybe just check it out for yourself. It's funny. It's funny. You'll have a good time. I promise. So the trailer starts off with Robin talking about, what makes a great superhero, and of course it's having your own movie. Which apparently is sort of like explains the plot of the movie. Because, of course, the title of the film is Teen Titans Go to the movies. Well, I guess the plot of the film is that the Teen Titans go to Hollywood to try and get their own movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So the rest of the Teen Titans pop out dressed as Wonder Woman.
That was hilarious. They're like, we're just giving the people what they want. And they're like, this isn't about Wonder Woman, it's about us. I thought that was pretty good
because it was like, nobody wants to see us, fool.
It was interesting to see Cyborg in this different representation of the character.
Yeah.
Where he's not like a brooding half computer guy.
The Cyborg from the Justice League movie.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. This is the very like loud, very like cool Cyborg.
Yeah. But they were kind of speaking the truth. Like DC is definitely aware that Wonder Woman is their hot property right now.
Oh, yeah.
Not necessarily Justice League, because, that didn't do as well with critics, but Wonder Woman was the one that's, like, inspiring everyone and winning all these awards from last year and everything like that.
Right.
So they're definitely keen on that. They know what's going on.
This trailer reminded me sort of like the Deadpool marketing. Like, it's very self-aware.
Yeah.
It's very, like, fourth wall breaking, and Teen Titans Go has always been that way.
Yeah.
So to me, this is almost like DC's Deadpool
for kids.
After Effects for kids. Yeah. Instead of going hard R, you go maybe PG.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
But yeah, because he says like, narrator, do your thing.
Yeah.
And then it kind of goes into like standard trailer mode from that point.
Yeah, from the creators of Teen Titans Go, the thing you're watching right now. I thought that was funny. Yeah. And then we see, it's just quick snippets of this huge balloon man. Which I don't know if that's a real character.
What was his name? He's like, I am the balloon monster guy.
Yeah, something like that.
The worst villain ever, though. Because Beast Boy turns into a porcupine and like shoots his quills at him. And the quills hit the balloon guy, the giant balloon guy, in the butt. And it makes it pops and like air's rushing out in like this huge fart noise sound. That to me made me laugh my ass off.
I didn't want to laugh. Because I was like, oh, really? A fart joke? Okay. But it's just Raven's line delivery.
Well, I laughed at the initial puncture and the fart noise, and he was like, "Oh." That made me laugh, but I think they took it on too long and maybe too far because Beast Boy was like, haha, you farted.
Yeah.
And he was like, that wasn't a fart, that was just air.
leaving my butt.
Yeah, and then Raven was like, which is a fart?
Which is a fart.
Yeah, I think they just, like, if they would have just left it at the, like, the air rushing out, because they didn't need to explain it. It was like they explained the joke to us.
Yeah, that is kind of one of the things you don't want to do, is you never want to explain your jokes.
Yeah.
But Tara Strong's line delivery. She's like one of my favorite parts of the show. Tara Strong.
She's Raven?
Yeah, she does the voice of Raven. She's probably more famous for the voice of Harley Quinn in Batman the Animated Series. But she does the voice of Raven, and she just does it so sultry and just so good. Her line delivery is spot on in this trailer as well. But, as this whole scene is going down, the narrator is saying, this is going to be the superhero movie to end all superhero movies, hopefully.
What does that mean?
Which offended me.
Is that like, are they saying hopefully the movie's good, or are they saying that hopefully this is the last superhero film?
Hopefully this is the last superhero film.
There was another dig at the end where they're like, if Aquaman could get a movie, anyone can.
Yeah.
Which is so bizarre to me. It's like they're disparaging their own universe. Like, you would never see Marvel say something disparaging about Ant-Man because they know how cool Ant-Man is. They just need to show other people how cool he is. It's almost like DC knows that Aquaman, he's too B-list to get a movie. What are they saying with that?
I don't know. I didn't like it at all when they did this, honestly, in the trailer. I was like, really? I mean, you're trying to build up how cool Aquaman was, and a lot of people liked him from the movie. But in the show, like, they sort of make fun of Aquaman and Aqualad, so it is part of the show, I guess you could say. But I mean,
all I can say is I'm less excited to see the Aquaman movie now because I think he's such a loser.
Jeez. Oh, think of it this way: if Deadpool was in the Marvel universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which he may be now, do you think Deadpool would be like, really, this guy got his own movie?
Yeah, probably.
In a way, Deadpool is kind of like...
Well, I guess you're kind of right, because the Ant-Man trailers, like the first one that came out where he was like, is it too late to change the name?
Yeah.
There was another segment where it was just in the marketing where he's talking to Falcon and he says, I'm Ant-Man. And then Falcon says, Ant-Man? All smug.
Yeah.
And then Ant-Man says, I know, it wasn't my idea.
Yeah.
So it is, I guess I shouldn't harp on this trailer too much, because Marvel did a little bit of the same.
No, I mean, because I understand where you're coming from. I don't want them to continue to do this. They should not be, like, sort of spreading ill will about an upcoming film in their slate. Just don't do that. It's not good marketing, I don't think. It may result in a laugh, but what if, some people start to not like Aquaman again?
Right.
I don't know. It's dangerous.
Are we getting too butthurt about it?
Yes, I totally am. I was completely offended. What is going on? I give this trailer 1 star. No.
It was pretty good. It makes me more hyped for the movie. I didn't even know what it was going to be like. I like the animation style, but being someone who had no idea what to expect going in, I was pleasantly surprised by this trailer. It looks like a lot of fun.
So yeah, it comes out, July 27th. So end of July, still have a ways to go.
Yeah,
we'll probably get a few more trailers.
Yeah, we'll be reviewing it when it comes out for sure.
But until then, we will get Deadpool sooner.
Yes, yeah. So Deadpool was moved from June 1st up a couple of weeks to May 18th. There was some shifting going around. I don't know why this happened, but so parts of it I'm happy with and parts of it I'm not. I think overall I'm less happy with this.
Because you don't get New Mutants this year.
Right, we don't get New Mutants this year. I was really looking forward to New Mutants. That was coming out in April, and it's been pushed back almost a whole year to February 22nd, 2019. And it looked like a super compelling film. They're setting it up as a horror film within the X-Men universe that they've set up. Mm-hmm. It had cool characters like Sunspot and Cannonball, Wolfsbane, Magic. I wasn't super impressed by the teaser trailer, but I've been following them on Instagram, and just the style, the vibe, the horror vibe that they're going with was enough to pique my interest. So this was among my most anticipated X-Men films for this year.
Well,
and no longer this year. And I mean, Deadpool getting moved up is nice, but it's only 2 weeks, so it barely makes a difference.
Yeah. I'm just like, I was really looking forward to seeing more promotional material, like another trailer from the New Mutants. And you have to think like they were only a few months away from releasing this film.
Right.
Like
there must have been something really wrong with it.
yeah.
I think the trades were saying that people close to the movie were saying that the movie wasn't scary enough. I don't know if they're going to try to make it scarier, or I mean, like, I don't need a super scary horror movie. Like, it should be, even if it's just a little bit scary, it'll still be unique for an X-Men film.
Yeah.
Like, I want like a horror action film.
Yeah.
So, if they went too heavy on the action for this version, I feel like they should leave it as is. But I mean, like, if their goal by pushing it back is to make it scarier, I don't know if they're making the right decision. But I can't comment on that because I don't know the real reason why they're pushing it back.
I'm super curious as to what the reason was, because I really feel like the marketing was starting to ramp up. Like they were releasing like those like short clips on Twitter and Instagram.
Right.
And then there was like this still, I don't know if you could call it a still. It's a promotional image of the actors, the sort of like in the same pose as like an AC/DC album cover.
Yeah. That was so cool.
That was cool. And it's Lockheed was like a stuffed doll.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sad that's a year.
Yeah, a whole year. So it got pushed back to February 22nd, which is about the same time that Gambit was supposed to come out in 2019.
Yeah.
But that film got pushed back from February 14th, 2019 to June 7th, 2019. One of the main reasons being that it lost its director again. This is the third director that it's on. First ahead, there was Doug Liman. I forgot who was on before that. But now it lost Gore Verbinski. And the trades, I think it's the Hollywood Reporter that is reporting that the reason that Gore Verbinski may have left, they did cite scheduling conflict, but the trade is saying that it was because the movie is a comedy. And so they're having kind of creative differences.
Yeah, they're saying it's going to be like 21 Jump Street.
Right, because Gore Verbinski is, he's an action film director.
He did Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, and so if they're making it more along the lines of 21 Jump Street, then that's not his wheelhouse.
Are you happy with that news?
No. I mean, I do like Channing Tatum as a comedic actor, but I do not want my Gambit film to be a comedy.
It should be Deadpool.
It can have comedic elements, but it should not be an overall comedic film.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like the Gambit comics have been overly comedic, I don't think.
No, they haven't. No, they're action, That's just disparaging. It's like, what are they doing? Like, just because you have Channing Tatum doesn't mean that you need to make this comedic movie.
I mean, you already have like your comedy franchise within this larger franchise, and I think that's Deadpool. Follow Marvel's formula, Fox, if you're going to do anything,
Yeah. At this point, I hope the film doesn't even come out. I hope Fox gets acquired and they it goes through all the legal government channels and everything like that, and all those movies get scrapped, because I'd prefer not to see it made if it's going to be a comedy. If it's going to come out that late, I'd like to see what Marvel's plans are. Like, I dream at night about like Marvel releasing news about their X-Men universe. That's what I would prefer to see. It seems like Fox is making weird decisions now, and they kind of they have to kind of keep chugging along as if nothing has happened, because if all of a sudden the deal doesn't go through, they're screwed.
Right.
So they have to and we got news that Tim Miller was developing a Shadowcat film. Yeah. Which is super bizarre. Like, what's going on there? Don't do that. I think Shadowcat is cool, but I mean,
I wonder if they would stick with Ellen Page.
I don't know. I don't know what they would do. But yeah, I think that's just more along the lines of they should have something in the works just in case this deal doesn't go through. Yeah. They're just making the wrong decisions. And nobody's really getting excited for it. I don't think. I'm certainly not.
No, I'm not. I definitely am not.
Yeah. Speaking of movies in development, the Black Widow movie has brought on a screenwriter. Apparently, Kevin Feige had talks with a writer by the name of Jac Shaeffer to write the script. And Jac Shaeffer has not actually had a movie produced yet from one of her scripts, but I guess there is a script going around that she wrote about an alien invasion that takes place during a baby shower.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And Anne Hathaway is attached to it.
Yeah, it sounds like the stupidest concept ever. But apparently it's well written, and so people are shopping her around. And so I guess the rumor is that she's supposed to have talks with Scarlett Johansson later on, sometime soon, about what the film is going to be about.
And Kevin Feige has already had talks with Scarlett Johansson about what she wants to see in the movie.
Yeah.
So, and that was before his meeting with Jac Shaeffer.
There is a recent rumor going around that the film is not just going to be a Black Widow film, but actually like a female Marvel superhero team-up film.
Right.
Which is not as appealing to me compared to a Black Widow solo film.
Why?
Because Black Widow is so interesting on her own. All we've seen her in are these team-up movies. And while she can be a team player, she's much more compelling as a solo spy. And that's the film that I want to see. Like, if you're going to bring any other Marvel character into it, bring in Winter Soldier and have that be the movie about their relationship.
Or Hawkeye.
Or Hawkeye, yeah. So a female superhero team, while I'm not against the idea, it sounds less appealing to me than a Black Widow solo film. So I hope they don't go that route.
Well, I heard that during like the filming of Infinity War, like all the female actresses had a scene together, and I guess they sort of were all talking, and they all all together went up to Kevin Feige and were like, "Hey, we want our own movie." I wonder if this is a result of that, because I know that happened like in what was it, like October, November-ish, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's hard to say because a Black Widow film has allegedly been in the works for a long time now. Yeah. Ever since, Feige's
Iron Man 2.
Yeah, Feige's been commenting on this for years now. So, it's hard to say.
I think he's been waiting to see what Wonder Woman does, and how that does, and to maybe work from that and just, add his Marvel touch to it.
Maybe.
See if that works.
Yeah. What concerns me also is that Jac Shaeffer is a comedy writer. So it's kind of like the same situation we have going on with Gambit.
Right.
Where the studio's wanting to make a comedy, possibly. And personally, I think that the character is best suited to a non-comedic movie.
You know what movie is coming out that really reminds me of Black Widow? That I think would have been a great tone for the film? Yeah, Red Sparrow. It looks almost exactly like what the Black Widow story is.
The cinematography and the tone are spot on, I think, with what a spy film could be. And it sucks because, she's Russian. In that movie, it stars Jennifer Lawrence, and she plays a Russian, ballerina who gets trained to be a Soviet spy. Mm-hmm. And, even the name of those spies, they're called Red Sparrows. It's like color animal plus animal. Red Sparrow, Black Widow. It seems like a total ripoff. I'm not happy about it. I hope the Black Widow movie that they end up making is closer to that.
That film also seems really sexual too. Maybe
I'm fine with seeing a sexual Scarlett Johansson movie.
Yeah, I don't know if you could do a sexual Black Widow though.
You could get a
sexual Black Widow film. I mean.
Yeah, well, I don't think you could go any further than how she was acting in Iron Man 2, kind of flirty, and she was a little bit flirty in her first scene in the Avengers too. I mean, I think that's far enough. I think. Yeah, I don't think you need to go Red Sparrow route where that looks really kind of sexy. But yeah, just something serious, just something not comedic, and hopefully a solo film and not a team up movie because I want to see a solo spy film.
I definitely take my spy films seriously. I don't like comedic spy films.
Nor do I.
To me, they've never worked for me.
It's an oxymoron, kind of.
Kind of, yeah. They're supposed to be really cool.
Get Smart, the TV show, probably being the exception. But that was a parody. And you certainly should not make a parody spy film a Black Widow film,
Right.
So we'll see what happens with that. That brings us to our question of the week. Speaking of this Black Widow film, who do you guys think would be the perfect director for the Black Widow movie? And I'll be interested in what kind of names we get.
And why. Why.
Yeah, and why. It'll probably go along the lines of how you guys feel the tone of a Black Widow movie should be. I have my own thoughts of who would make a great Black Widow film director. And we would like to hear yours. And so go ahead and write into us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Go ahead and do a search for Dynamic Duel Podcast on those platforms, and you can find us.
Right, or you could email us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com. We're going to pick our favorite answer from the batch that we get, and then during our next episode next week, we will draw that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize with their name on it that we will post to social media.
Yeah, you'll be famous. Think about it. You won't be that famous, no. All right, so I think that does it for the news. Let's go ahead and get Cusick in here. I'll go ahead and hop on the other mic, and we'll talk about V for Vendetta.
Yep. Man, this movie has some really powerful music. I can't. Okay, so this is our V for Vendetta review. The movie came out in 2005. It was directed by James McTeague. It was written by the Wachowskis.
Did it come out in 2005 or 2006?
2005.
Because I remember it was originally scheduled to come out on November, around the 5th. But then it was pushed back because of there was a London subway bombing.
Right.
So the movie, and since the movie touches on terrorist themes, they pushed the film back to the following February.
Which is kind of a tragedy because the film was supposed to come out like on the 400th anniversary of the Guy Fawkes attempted bombing of Parliament.
Interesting.
The graphic novel itself was based on the 10-issue comic issue series written by Alan Moore and illustrated by David Lloyd. And if you're not familiar with the film, it follows an anarchist revolutionary's elaborate takedown of a fascist dystopian version of the UK. I've been waiting forever to review this film, like over a year. We're joined here by our guest, Mike Cusick, who recommended that we review this film. Like back in 2016, I feel like, is when we first started talking about reviewing this film.
Yeah.
It's been forever. I've been so excited, and I'm afraid there's no way this review is going to live up to the hype of my excitement. It's impossible.
DC and Marvel's kept you too busy, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Come out with a lot of stuff. It's hard for me to think of this as a DC film, even though it was published by DC Comics, just because it's like an Elseworld tale where it's removed from the standard continuity of DC Comics.
It's not even Elseworlds. It's I don't know. It's its own thing entirely. It was originally published by a British magazine, but the magazine went out of business like halfway through the comics publication. So then it moved to America, was published by DC Comics, and then the collected editions were published by DC's Vertigo imprint. So it was just like their darker imprint.
Well, they did have both the DC and the Vertigo logo before this film, which was a surprise.
Which makes it a DC Comics film.
This is actually, when I watched this film yesterday, it was actually only my second time seeing the movie.
What?
I saw it once in theaters, and then I would see snippets of it along the way, but I never actually watched it again. And the first time I saw it, we were teenagers. We were like 19 years old. So I saw this movie in a completely different light on yesterday's viewing, and I liked it. I liked it a lot the first time I saw it, but I liked it way more yesterday.
Yeah. Before we get into our thoughts of the film and our review of the film, Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Like I said, my name is Mike Cusick. We used to work together.
Yeah.
That's how we know each other.
Yeah.
I am just sort of a movie aficionado, especially with this one. This is one of my favorite movies ever. So when you guys were announcing that you were doing this podcast, I wanted you to review this one just because I like it so much. And you so kindly had me on today. So hopefully I can say something meaningful about it. But it's an important film to me personally. And I also think it's just a great piece of filmmaking. So
it's one of your favorite films?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Nice.
Top 5.
I would say it's one of my favorite films as well. It's definitely like in the top 10.
Yeah. I recently shuffled like my top 5, and I have to say I think I moved this one in there yesterday.
Oh, really?
It's such a good movie.
2 Natalie Portman films in my top 5.
What's the other one?
Leon the Professional.
That is a good movie.
She was like 12.
Yeah, she was really young.
Yeah, that was a good film.
Okay, so most important question of the night: Marvel or DC?
Answer correctly.
You're both staring at me. I don't know who to talk to more. So the love of my life for comics is the X-Men. So I think I have to go with.
Damn it! What are you doing?
Although I have to say, I do really appreciate the style that DC tries to do in their films lately. But yeah, I don't know. Just the X-Men is I will see every X-Men movie, even if it's shit. I will see anything that they make. So
Okay, so I think I'm the only one here who's read the book, right?
Right.
yeah, for me this is purely a movie-going experience.
Same.
I have not read the graphic novel.
That's awesome. I sort of almost wish I didn't read the graphic novel going into this, because a lot of my major gripes with the film, and I loved the film. I think again this is in my top 10 favorite films. Were just moments where, or instances where the characters made more sense in the comic, and they sort of did strange things in the movie, which we'll get into. But I think I read the book for the first time when I was in college. I think it's like a really dense read, but a good read. And like the movie, it was both like, I thought it was really cool and it was really moving. And the politics were a little above my head at that age. By the way, this podcast might get political, so. And forewarning, like,
we all hate Trump, right?
The comic and the movie are both, like, very anti, like, right-wing fascist government. So if you don't like that, then maybe skip this episode. just forewarning.
Yeah, so you continue liking us and, just go on to the next one.
Yeah.
Share with all your friends, please.
So, but, like, at the time, like, I don't know, like, anarchy was, like, a scary thing to me. I didn't quite understand what I was reading at the time, but as the years go on, I feel like I get more and more from it each time I see the movie or each time I read the book. Did you feel like you guys got that from the movie? Like the movie was about like anarchy versus fascism?
I mean, I saw it post 9/11, which, right? That's the timeline,
it came out.
Yeah, so when I saw it the first time, I got a very like right-wing, Republican response to 9/11. I don't know the film. I remember getting criticized for kind of people were saying that they were using England as a weird proxy for America. The writers of that one. So and I can totally see that. Like I felt like at the time it was a kind of as a response to anti-Islam,
it was relevant then.
It came out during the Bush era.
Yeah.
It was a very anti-Bush sentiment I felt at the time.
And it's funny that you say that it was like a weird, like Britain was standing in as like a weird proxy for America, because the writer of the graphic novel, Alan Moore, he actually denounced the movie because he sort of felt the opposite.
Doesn't he denounce everything?
That's his thing.
Well, if he's not involved in the writing or like the directing of the film, he just doesn't want anything to do with it, which. I mean, kind of good for him. They kind of ruined League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
He'll take that money though.
No, he doesn't. I don't think he doesn't take any money.
He doesn't get royalties at all.
He didn't. Because he
refuses them.
He refuses them. He doesn't want any money from them. Yeah.
Say what you will about him, he does have his integrity.
Yeah, the guy's a genius. The guy's. I mean, it's so hard to like. In my opinion, he is comics' greatest writer that has ever been. Like better than Frank Miller. Better than any other prolific comic book writer. To me, he's the best. Alan Moore is the best. So it's kind of hard to like say that I like the films that have come out based on his works, like V for Vendetta, like Watchmen, when he himself has denounced them and refuses to watch them. It's like, just give them a chance. They're great. They're based on your work. Although one thing he has said is he's really, really fascinated by the Guy Fawkes mask that has sort of become a symbol of like protesters and revolution.
I almost forget about that comes from this movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it comes from the book, comes from the movie. That has to be like the illustrator David Lloyd has got to be like thrilled by that.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
He created like a true meme.
Yeah. I almost bought one, actually.
Really? Why? Are you going to post internet videos?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure my name would go on a list though.
Since this might be a little bit of a tangent, but do you feel, since you've read both graphic novels for Watchmen and V for Vendetta, the films for Watchmen and V for Vendetta, which one do you think was a better adaptation?
Watchmen.
Yeah.
Watchmen is a closer adaptation. V for Vendetta is good for its own reasons, separate from the book. And I almost like the movie more than the book, honestly.
For Watchmen?
No, for V for Vendetta. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I like... I mean, again, there are some like inconsistencies with characters and stuff like that in the movie. But I think like overall, I think it was just more relevant, at the time of when I was watching it. It spoke to me more. And again, when I read V for Vendetta, because I read it before the movie came out, it was over my head. And he's such a good writer and such a profound writer. I'll still read it now, and a lot of it is still feels like it's over my head. Like it's just way more intelligent than I am, which is unfortunate.
Well, the comic series came out in the 80s?
Yeah, it came out in, I think he started writing it like in 1982, and it was published in 1988. It was sort of Alan Moore's response to Margaret Thatcher and her government.
That makes sense.
It was very conservative. But say in the movie, like V is less of an anarchist. I don't think the like word anarchy comes up once during the movie. But it's all over the book.
No, there's the one guy who robs the convenience store and he says anarchy in the UK.
Oh yeah, anarchy in the UK.
Which I thought was a cool
but
reference.
If you even look at like the V symbol, like the circle with the V, it's really just the anarchy symbol like turned upside down. There's like hidden references sort of like everywhere throughout the book.
They do play that down though.
They do for sure.
Maybe it was more politically expedient to do that because he's more of a freedom fighter in this.
He's definitely like a champion of the people, sort of like a savior figure. But like
that's why I would say that the movie's less about fascism versus anarchy. Because I feel like with fascism, any sort of freedom feels like anarchy. I don't think it was real anarchy. I don't think he was like an anarchist. He was more of a freedom fighter. He was fighting for just freedom in general, I think, more so than no government.
Right. It was more like a fight against censorship and like restriction on personal freedoms. Things like that.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
And the killing of people who are different.
Yeah, all the issues that were in the movie, like, the Patriot Act, government spying, and government conspiracies, censorship, corporate corruption, fear-mongering, all that stuff.
Homophobia, Islamophobia.
Yeah, all those things, yeah. Again, I think that's why the movie sort of spoke to me more than maybe the book did, because it was just more relevant at the time, I think.
I think overall, I like this movie more than I liked Watchmen.
Really?
Yes.
I think it's a more coherent story.
I think so as well. Even though Watchmen was a closer adaptation, I think this is the better overall story. They're both... I think you could consider this one a sort of superhero story.
Okay, so yeah, I think the producer Joel Silver, who also produced the Matrix films, he kind of went out saying that, and that was a little bit controversial because in the book, like, V is not a freedom fighter of sorts. He's not like a savior figure. He's almost like a villain because he will mow down like civilians and stuff to get what he wants. It's a very personal. It's a little bit more personal perhaps in the book.
Also, I feel like this movie was marketed strangely because it had, I think, come off the heels of The Matrix, and a lot of what they showed in the trailer was like that one slow-mo scene that they have in the movie.
Yeah.
So I was very confused when I saw it the first time. I was like, why are there no superpowers? Why is there no like bullet time?
That's true.
Because I heard like Wachowski's, Matrix, then that trailer.
Yeah. That's true. That's absolutely true. They marketed it heavily as an action film.
And it's really not. It's very like more of a thoughtful... I mean, it's very action-packed, but there's a lot of dialogue, a lot of monologues.
Well, there's like 2 action scenes. They're well done, but I don't consider it an action film. I consider it more of just a political thriller.
It's like, if it's a genre, it's probably like social science fiction, like in the same vein as like 1984, Children of Men, or something like that. It's like the future could be this. It's like a warning. Like one of those kind of stories. Which I love. I love those.
It's like proper science fiction. It's like holding a mirror up to society. And like letting people, look at themselves for what they are.
Yeah. I think this film does a really good job of that. It's like, to me, it's like a near perfect social science fiction kind of film.
Alan Moore's work, even though this is you could consider this in Watchmen superhero stories, I think his work transcends above the genre, and I think that's why I think these are some of the best comic book films ever, because of the source material kind of goes above what your standard superhero film is. It has more to say, and I really like that.
I think if Watchmen was sort of Alan Moore's way of saying, maybe sort of like poking fun at American comics and saying like, hey, if superheroes are real, you should like, they're people, they're still people, you should really not trust your lives with these people, then I think V for Vendetta was more, I guess, universal, like, hey, don't trust your needs. Don't trust your needs to a government in a way, I guess.
Don't sacrifice liberty for protection.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Which was exactly, during the Bush era, what after 9/11, post 9/11 those, and it still is an issue to this day. What's more important to you, liberty or safety?
Full disclaimer.
I think it's more relevant now even than it was, which is, I think, a cool thing for a piece of art to be able to age that well.
I think, just like a lot of the other like social science fictions, like 1984, they just age well. They become more and more real with like each decade that passes, like hauntingly.
Yeah, back in 2005, I was like, oh, this is all about today. And I watched it yesterday. I'm like, this is all about today. What's going on today? Although I don't like that it seems relevant to today. Like at the movie start when you have that the Voice of London guy.
Yeah.
My first thought was Alex Jones. I want to punch that guy in the face. Just punch him.
Yeah, that's it's not easy to watch.
How over the top he is.
Yeah.
It's
That's
like watching a Tucker Carlson segment or Sean Hannity.
Right.
Yeah. I don't even watch those. I don't know who I don't know who Tucker is.
They're like Fox News commentators, but they're not like the news part. They're like the opinion part, where they just like are blowing smoke about whatever. Like that seemed. I remember at the time seemed very over the top. Those sections, the Louis Prado sections,
and it's not
they're
anymore.
like it's gotten more like that in real life nowadays. Like that seems pretty par for the course for like some conservative television.
It was kind of, I mean, that bit, it was like really annoying, but it was like, do you think it was like a clever way of like sort of setting the scene? Because in it we learned like, there was
a war in America.
Yeah. There was a plague in Europe. The government, that has taken over has gotten rid of Muslims and homosexuals. And it kind of paints this picture of what's sort of like this horrifying dystopian kind of future.
Yeah, I think he did a good job of setting the scene.
Even the part where he kind of makes that crass joke when he says like the USA, the like ulcid sphincter of Asserica or whatever. I thought that was such a dumb joke, but like now, like politicians say shitty insults like that on Twitter.
Exactly.
Like it's like a real thing. Like that's real. That's
real. And it's almost like life imitating art. Mm-hmm. Who would have thought it would have gotten that crazy though? Because at the time, I do remember thinking, this guy's way over the top.
This is over the top. Yeah. Let's go before we get into the plot. Let's go. Let's do a character breakdowns. So V, of course, was played by Hugo Weaving, who originally this role was supposed to be played by James Purefoy.
Yeah.
He had to drop out because he found that he couldn't act behind the mask.
And Hugo Weaving totally can.
He totally can.
And it's amazing.
This is such a great role.
Like who has ever done this? Being entirely masked. Like no, you don't even see like his jaw move. You don't see anything. Like there's no emotion, but like you see across.
Everything. And it's almost like you're like projecting onto his mask because I feel like when he's angry, that mask looks angry. It's just a really well designed mask.
Yeah,
I want to buy it. I know my name's gonna go on a list. I don't care. I'm gonna buy one.
Well, when are you gonna wear it?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Scare your children.
Yeah. No, his acting, like, so he has to act with his body. Yeah. But it's not, he doesn't overdo it in any way. It's just precise. He's a very technically precise actor. So good at his craft. So technical,
yeah. Yeah.
I don't actually know much about his career, but you can tell, I would assume that he's done a lot of like theater, like British theater, like the way he enunciates, like that brilliant monologue in the beginning with all the V words.
Yeah. No, actually, I think it's his theater background is what got him the job. Because, like, when they asked him, they're like, we just, James Purefoy can't act behind the mask. Is that going to be a problem for you? He was like, no, don't even worry about it. It's not complete. It's a complete non-issue. And then he
also, I'm Elrond of Rivendell, so fuck
off. I'm Mr. Smith. Gosh. Don't mess with me.
Yeah, he's Mr. Agent Smith. He's Red Skull. He's such a badass.
Yeah, he needs to be in more stuff. He needs to be in every movie, I think.
Yeah. He's very distinctive, though. I can see why people wouldn't cast him. Like, his voice and his, like, forehead are very distinctive.
Yeah. His voice is super distinctive, yeah. Actually, when I first... because I remember, like, hearing news of when this film was going to be made, and when they announced that Hugo Weaving was cast, I was like, really? Because I never heard, like, Hugo Weaving's voice when I read the book. I don't know whose voice I heard, but it definitely wasn't Hugo Weaving. I thought it was just going to be like, Mr. Evie, or Miss Evie. I don't know. That's a horrible Hugo Weaving impression.
We missed
you would think that maybe, like, with all of the trauma his body underwent, that his voice would be a little bit messed up. And in the movie, it's very, like, perfectly, like, theatrical.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it totally works. I don't know. I think that really makes it come across on screen.
V, for me, the character has always been, like just as cool as Batman. Like, he's just as, like, stealthy, and he just has that flowing cape and just, like, this cool outfit, and he's super theatrical. Like, even more so, like, in the book. Like, he switches masks to more, like, vaudevillian, like, clown kind of masks and stuff like that. It's just all about theatricality and deception with this character. It's really cool.
The thing I loved about him in this is that, like, he kind of mentions as an aside that he's been doing this for, like, 10 years. or even longer, 20 maybe.
Yeah.
Like laying track for 10 years. Like
Yeah,
he's been working his entire life to like pull off this one thing.
Yeah.
And so like it makes like it was believable to me that he is as good as he is at all the different things that he can do.
Oh, for sure.
Like the way that he targets people, like, you know, if you think of like Batman, he's doing like a V level heist like every week, you know.
Yeah.
But like he's worked his entire life for this one thing.
Yeah.
And he pulls it off like, you know, perfectly, of course.
Yeah.
I think the interesting about the character is that his mission is not 100% altruistic. I mean, he's fighting for freedom, but it is a very personal mission. Like the whole fighting for people's freedom thing is admirable, but the killing of all the scientists, that was a very personal act. It wasn't a heroic act at all.
No,
it's all revenge. All of
yeah,
it.
yeah, which is sort of like why a lot of people are sort of hesitant to call V a hero or definitely a superhero. And if you were to ask me like who the protagonist of the story was, it would actually be Evie.
Oh yeah,
I think she's not only sort of like the perspective of the audience because like she meets V when we do and stuff like that, but just, you know, she carries on his tradition at the end and sort of she becomes V literally in the book. Like in the book, spoilers, shit, do I say this if you guys are going to read the book?
No. We've had 25 years, it's fine.
All right, I'll say it. So in the book, V doesn't inspire like all of Britain to like pick up his costume and march on the government. He inspires one person, and that person is Evie. And then she in turn, at the end of the book, takes a hold of one person, I'm not going to say who, to like sort of...
It's the cop guy.
Sort of manipulate them into like the new V.
Right?
What cop guy?
The cop guy, the main detective guy.
How did you know that? No, Finch? No, it's not him.
Oh.
No.
So there's another cop guy.
His deputy.
Yeah, the deputy guy.
You guys are too smart.
Yeah,
who else
would it be?
It happens in the movie pretty much.
Dominic Stone. It was him.
I like that character.
Yeah, he's a good character.
I'll talk
I like
about
that they're not dumb. Like they characterized the detectives really well. I thought in the movie.
Yeah.
Like we can hold that until you get to them if you want.
Oh, well, yeah. Let's move on to Evie, Natalie Portman. Not her best performance, I don't think.
Nope.
But I don't necessarily think that's her fault.
Why?
I think a lot of it has to do with the writing, which isn't to bash the Wachowskis. So in the book, Evie, she starts off, she's 16 years old, and she kind of goes out and like sort of like attempting to prostitute herself for the first time, and that's when V saves her from the Fingerman. She was very, very naive, and I think Natalie Portman has a really hard time portraying naive because she is an intelligent woman. You know, she went to Harvard, and you know she's not as young as Evie was in the book. So I think like the movie starts off with her being, you know, an intelligent woman. She obviously knows that like the hate that Prothero is spewing at the beginning is just, you know, she doesn't want to hear that.
She's kind of just an every person.
Yeah.
At the time. It is odd though. I think the scene when she's out at night and she gets confronted, maybe she's like acting it up for the Fingerman, but she's like trying to act naive, and it feels like she's acting naive. Like I don't know if they were trying to make her come across as actually naive. Yeah, I didn't believe it.
No, she knew what she was doing. She knew she was going out after curfew because she has to be acting. Otherwise, the character is just dumb.
Yeah.
You know, why would you go out after curfew?
Well, she was supposed to be meeting
Dietrich, right?
Yeah,
but
Dietrich.
She should have known not to go out. Maybe meet him earlier. You know,
right?
So it's things like that where
I will say though, I think I agree with you. I think it is more so the writing than her actual acting because the scene when she comes out of the torture chamber for the first time, like I had an emotional reaction watching her break down with him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I thought like she can act. Like I think she's a really, really talented actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. When she says I can't feel anything anymore, that was powerful.
I seriously, I will never forget this. I was 17 years old watching this in the theaters. I cried at that scene.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often.
I'll admit that. Okay, here's the thing too. That whole thing was like spoiled for me. Like I knew what was happening.
Oh, because you read the book.
Because I read the book.
Oh, so I had no idea. That totally they sold me on that whole scene.
Yeah,
that is such a good twist.
And you watch it now, and you're like, obviously that's Hugo Weaving sitting in the chair and stuff like that. I saw that from the very beginning, but I watched.
They plant it once when he captures her at his house. You can see his burnt hand.
Yeah, right.
That's the only clue they give you.
There's There's a definite like suspension of disbelief. It was much more convincing in the book because like it's a still frame. So like in the book like they use like mannequins and stuff like that.
But it didn't even register to me that you weren't seeing their faces and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was really well done.
I do think they changed his voice.
They did
or something.
They did, except for like the last time when he was like,
the last
"Why
one,
would you save someone who doesn't give a shit about you or whatever?" And then again when he says like, "You're complete without fear, you're free." Okay, so I knew the surprise reveal, and I still cried at her performance. It was really well done.
That is such a good twist, and I feel kind of bad that you never got to experience that.
No, I mean, for me, it was just as dramatic in the book. Like I had to set the book down and just contemplate after that. Like
Alan Moore, man, I had the same experience with Watchmen, because I read that one in college. I had my I am very smart like brain explosion moment.
Yeah.
Sitting in my dorm room.
No, like when I read it in the book, I felt like I was just like Evie reading Valerie's letter for the first time, and it was just as impactful. It was.
Is Valerie gay in the book too?
Yeah.
Wow, that's like pretty progressive. When was this written? In the 80s?
Yeah, he started writing it in the early 80s. It is, absolutely.
All right, so I will say that I liked the Evie character more in the second half of the movie after the torture scene reveal. Because she comes off as very confident, she's like weirdly attractive for having a shaved head. Like only Natalie Portman can pull that off. But I felt like it was the Natalie Portman that I knew of. That was the character that I was expecting. So this kind of like weirdly timid, unsure person that she was in the beginning, I don't think she sold me on it quite. And I don't know if it was her fault or the writers necessarily.
Was it? Okay, so like the moment where it's revealed that it was a trick by V, it was a powerful moment. We can all agree on that. But do you think it was like convincing enough for her to have such a character shift?
That's a good question. Because they plant. See, this is the thing that is weird about her character is they plant the fact that her parents are like extremist activists, right?
Right.
So she's grown up in this very political family, and then for her to go completely just like boring after that, like you'd think that she would have a little bit more spunk or a little bit more rebelliousness to her.
Yeah.
I just don't know if like they characterize that in the most believable way, and I don't know if maybe that's because like after what happened to her. Like, from her childhood, her parents being taken away from her, like, she has all this trauma. And then for her to experience that again at the hands of V, I think it makes perfect sense for her to kind of, like, her personality to lock back into place where it probably should have been the whole time. As this, like, angry, controlled badass.
I mean, unless she had, like, repressed it somehow. Repressed that part of her being with, like, her parents and all that. But, yeah, I agree. She portrayed the character as more, like, someone who hadn't, like, really experienced anything in their lives. And then when she comes out of V's deception, her body language is different. Her head is held more upright and everything like that.
Yeah,
I like that transformation.
I do think it was a believable, montage of the torture scenes.
Yeah.
Like she gets more and more defiant as it goes along, and I felt like the sequence was long enough that I believed the progression.
She becomes more and more invested in Valerie's story and her own sense of integrity. Yeah, I mean, in the book, after she learns the truth about what V did to her, she stays with V. And, like, not because she needs him, but because she, like, starts to help him more. She's sort of, like, she's woke, so she stays with him and helps him more. And in the movie, I didn't understand why she left. She all of a sudden had, like, this sort of, like, attitude towards him. Even after realizing that, hey, the Valerie thing, that was real. Like, that wasn't... V didn't make that up, I don't know.
But he also tortured her. I don't know. I feel like her leaving him at that point, I would have expected her to do that, I think. Like, it surprises me that you say that in the book she stays.
Yeah.
Because she even says, like, you tortured me, you cut my hair, you did all these things.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you? Like, I mean, even the fact that she is still likes him in the end, like, a lot of people consider kind of this weird kind of sexist thing. I don't quite buy that necessarily, but I've heard that criticism before.
Really?
That there's this like Stockholm syndrome.
Oh.
That they don't really address. That he like he did something fucked up. Like he
tortured her.
Right. V tortured this girl for like his own purposes.
Well,
and for him to not really suffer any consequences for that, I think would have been
that's true.
Odd
I could
story
see that.
Point, at least in the movie.
That That makes a lot of sense.
He almost not committed suicide, but he willfully died.
Oh.
I think he had mentioned like it is my time. This is what I deserve. This death. So I think he knew that he had a price to pay for his actions.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think he did pay the price, but I think just between their relationship, like the fact that he suffered consequences relationally with Evie made sense to me.
Oh. One thing I didn't like about the relationship is that the movie made it like a romantic kind of thing.
I didn't buy that.
It's another reason I was like the writers kind of maybe didn't quite know how to deal with the character when it was played by Natalie Portman, because in the book I am convinced that V was actually Evie's father, and like they explicitly like go out of their way to like say like no he wasn't, but to me that's just like him saying like I'm a different man. I'm not the man I was. I'm not your father. I'm someone completely new. Which in the book, I think it was better done in the way that Evie ends up leaving V, because in the movie she's essentially his captive, right? Mm-hmm. In the book that's not the case. She stays with him because she is young. She's on the street, and it's just someplace to stay.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so when they changed it to her being kidnapped in the movie, the scene where like she's looking at Dietrich's like address or something like that, and then she goes to V and she sort of like tells her backstory and explains that she wants to help him. To me, like that was very like she's acting like it's not sincere. She's like not sincerely going to him for help, because really it's just a ruse to get out of being kidnapped by him.
Right.
In the book, what happens is that like they start to like grow a closer relationship, and she's like, do you want to kiss me or something like that, and then V just kind of like shuts down, and then like he like blindfolds her and leads her outside, and then like just sort of like sets her free, and she kind of goes out like unwillingly. She wanted to stay with him. Anyway, what I'm saying is that Evie was better in the book.
Okay, I can believe that.
Yeah. Upon leaving V, the POV character kind of switches from her to the police officer guy, because she kind of disappears for the whole like last act of the movie. Mm-hmm. Shows up at the very end. Yeah. So the POV goes to Finch, and is he next on your character list?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, great actor. I don't know if I've seen him in anything else.
His name is Stephen Ray, and I think I've seen him before. I'm drawing a blank as to where. But like to me, this whole film is definitely like a who's who of like British actors. You know, I've seen them all since this film. I'm like, oh, that's the guy from V for Vendetta. He's does a really good performance. I mean, there's just some line delivery that I think with anyone else may have been kind of cheesy, but with him, it's like really sincere. Like when he's looking out the window and he's saying like, well, you know, tonight's your night. Are you ready? Are we ready? Like no one says stuff like that out loud, you know. But he delivers that perfectly.
Yeah, I thought he did a really good subtle performance of being loyal to the fascist regime, and then also having his mind turned.
Yeah. Through
the investigation.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't ever really have any like big aha moment. It just sort of is like this natural progression into him, pretty obviously like. Yeah. On V's side. Yeah,
there's it's almost like a mystery. You know, you're like learning these truths as he's learning them, and just like start to realize along with him just the horrors of what's going on, of what the situation is, of what this whole V situation is.
I think the actor makes an interesting choice to be like tired most of the time. That's how I think he almost kind of like pulls off this whole kind of transition from the regime to V's side. Is that by the first time you even see him, he just kind of looks weary. Like he's just like sick of it all already.
Yeah.
Do you think it was a little bit maybe naive on his part, having witnessed probably what he's witnessed as an agent of the government, you know, with all of like the capturing of people and kind of the horrific things that have happened, for him to be super surprised that like they poisoned a bunch of people?
Well, you see, the thing is that he is the head. I don't think they named his division in the movie. He's the chief inspector, right?
I assume he's like in charge of the local police, and the other guy was like
Creedy is more like MI6. I don't know if it's
a little bit more clandestine. Yeah.
But he knows. I mean, he says like you better watch out, or else you're gonna disappear in one of Creedy's black bags. Like
Yeah.
he knows that
Yeah, he definitely knows about the black
stuff
bags.
happens.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Finch is the head of what's called the nose, and Creedy is in charge of what's called the finger.
That's funny.
So don't put your finger in your nose. I don't know. I don't know. It's, that's dumb. Anyway, so Finch, it was just a really, really good performance, and you're right, it did become like the POV performance in the latter half of the film, which is interesting for a film to do that.
Yeah, I never thought about that before. It really does switch perspectives as they kind of like delve into the mystery and like the investigation of what happened.
Yeah, yeah. In the book, he's pretty similar. Like he's definitely like a guy, like a good guy who like becomes disillusioned with his own government. Except in the book, in order to track V, he goes to Larkhill, which is like a big like no because it's outside of the quarantine zone. Mm-hmm. He goes to Larkhill and takes LSD to get into the mind of V.
What?
And it actually works. It actually leads him like right to V.
In the movie, that's the section where they portray it with like the domino, and there's like that montage of like him realizing all the things, and he sort of sees the future a little bit.
Sort of.
Okay,
I think that's a brilliant piece of editing. That segment,
Well, isn't it though? Yeah.
Because they do start to show things from future scenes in the film.
And foreshadowing.
That haven't happened yet.
Yeah.
The editing on this film in general, I think, is just fantastic. It's amazing.
Yeah. So what about Adam Sutler, who was played by John Hurt? Not a big role. He's on a television screen most of the time.
Really over the top, but effective. I mean, John Hurt's, he's amazing. Guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's reading off of a teleprompter like all the time. Like, no one speaks in these grand monologues like he does.
No, yeah.
And
then also neither does V. I think it's just a style of the film.
I think him being cast was like a really great nod. Have you guys seen the 1984 film?
I haven't, no.
He plays the main character, Winston Smith, in that film. Okay. So he sort of like switches roles. And that's the film that's sort of like, when you think of like the big like dictator on the big screen, like that's where that came from that movie. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of, I guess, a nice kind of play on the fact that he kind of, I don't know,
he went from hero to Big Brother.
Exactly. Yeah.
I did like the kind of two sides of him that we see, because mostly it's like him on the TV screen. He's like very powerful, domineering, and then I think the next time we see him is when V like takes the bag off of his head. Yeah. And he's like crying, and he like doesn't even say anything.
No. Yeah. You could kind of see like his appearance sort of slowly like becoming worse for the wear, like as the year that the film takes place in, as it gets closer to the end.
You also see his minions sort of starting to turn on him as the more and more desperate he gets.
Yeah. What about Dietrich, which is played by Stephen Fry? To me, he was my least favorite character in the movie. Although
he's a weird character. When I first saw the movie, I was very confused at like who he was and who he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you get the impression watching the film that he's a much more important character than he actually ends up being. Mm-hmm. It's just showing like he's kind of like the guy who's always been against the government, and he's, collecting these like artifacts from the reclamation or whatever. So you see that there are people that they know that this government is messed up, but they just don't necessarily have the means or the will to speak out against it, and then he finally does, and he gets punished for it.
See, I think one of the reasons why he's my least favorite character is because, one, no one in the public in the book was like that. Like everyone, like they voted in the movie. Like Norsefire took over the government.
Norsefire?
Norsefire is the name of the political party.
They never actually mentioned it by name.
I think they mentioned it like once.
They say that someone is a member of the Conservative Party, and that's like all they call it.
When Valerie is saying like words like Norsefire became more common, that's like the one mention they have of it. But in the movie, they gained power after the virus. But in the book, like they were developing the virus after they were already in power because of a nuclear war that happened across the world, and people elected willingly fascists to like sort of like retool their government.
I think it came across like that in the movie as well.
It did? Okay.
Because he said like, in your fear you turn to the now High Chancellor Adam Sutler. It sounded like the people chose this path.
Yeah, he does say that. But like there was never really that character that was like so openly like against the government in the book. Like they didn't have like their own secret room. Dietrich, he's a completely different character in the book. He's like a thief. He doesn't own his own show. And him and Evie become like lovers. The character in the movie just does like the dumbest thing ever.
It was
so dumb.
I mean, he's just not like smart enough. He should have. I mean, in a perfect world, he would have hidden her or something.
No, like I'm not saying he's dumb because like he revealed like all of his like.
Or are you talking about his
secrets?
show?
I'm talking about a show.
Oh yeah, that seemed like a little bit out of left field.
Yeah, a little bit because he was like, "Oh, my agent will get me out of it. I'll just pay a fine, whatever." It's like, dude.
No, dude, you're gonna fucking die. That's what's gonna happen. You're gonna get blacked back.
Obviously.
Yeah. No.
Especially because they had the scene before where he's like acquiescing to the censor. Like he wants to do that scene with the cow being crucified or whatever.
Right.
And he's like, but you'll never get it approved. And then he changes it.
Right.
So for him to then all of a sudden be like, oh, I'm going to do this super politically offensive thing.
What was his motivation? Like I felt like we never really got that.
I think he was motivated by V. I think he inspired a lot of people to act out.
That's true.
And maybe by Evie coming to him. Because she's sort of with him for like an ambiguous amount of time.
Yeah.
It's not clear in the film like how long she stays with him.
Yeah.
True.
I kind of like appreciate his character for showing the different ways that people react to totalitarian regimes. Like you have someone like V who's like a hard anarchist. You have someone like Evie who doesn't do anything. You have someone like him who tries to be passively aggressive, but like still work within the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that's why they changed his character because it was an interesting, needed perspective. I think.
Yeah, I just think like the whole talk show thing where he mocks the chancellor. I think that was like not needed. Like I'm not even sure why that was written to the script because it has no basis from
that part felt very British. Like it felt very like British talk show. Like just the slapsticky humor. Like
yeah, I can see that.
Also, now that I'm thinking about it, so he's like a gay man in the film, and I feel like his character maybe shows how an oppressed group would leverage their power in the best way that they can, but like not be willing to risk personal hurt because the risk to their own bodies is so much more prevalent than like a normal person.
Yeah.
So maybe that helps to explain his actions a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, there's a ton of like minor characters in this film. I'm not sure how many we want to. I guess Creedy would be the only one I would have another comment on. I think Creedy, who was played by Tim Pigott-Smith, I think they cast that actor because
he looks like
he was
asshole.
Balding like Dick Cheney in a way. I think that character was exactly supposed to be Dick Cheney.
Absolutely the truth.
Like if you put glasses on him.
I never thought that, but I want to believe it. Yep. So now that's just what I'm going to believe.
God, I forgot how much people like hated Dick Cheney back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, the whole black bag imagery like wasn't in the book. It came from the leaked photos of what Cheney ordered people to do, and like the CIA torturing and stuff like that. So.
Mm-hmm.
What about the character who grows the roses? What's her name again?
Valerie's lover.
Valerie, just Valerie.
Oh, Valerie.
Oh, yeah.
Valerie. Yeah.
She's like, I mean, she's not really a main character at all, but
she's like a big catalyst in the film. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess you could say she has like one of the longest monologues in the film, if you could call it a monologue.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting when you rewatch the film and you see her pop up in places that you never thought that she was there. It's just good foreshadowing throughout the film.
Like at Lark Hill, standing in line.
Right.
And even at the end when all the V crowd was standing by the parliament and it blew up and everybody was removing their masks. There was...
all the dead people are in the crowd.
A lot of dead people were in the crowd. And
that bothered me.
Why? I thought that was brilliant.
Okay, it was brilliant. And I can understand
like the dead girl.
How it could be brilliant, but to me it was just like just a moment of like surrealism that didn't quite fit. I was like, wait.
What is real?
They're supposed to be dead. Is this a dream? What's going on?
They're part of the revolution.
Yeah, they're like ghosts that are celebrating among the living or something.
So in the book, after V dies, Evie has like this really like hard time deciding whether or not she's going to take off the mask. And she it goes through like a sequence where she like fantasizes taking off the mask, and she sees like all these different people. She sees like her father, and she sees she sees Dietrich, and then like eventually she like sees herself, and that's when she decides like she doesn't need to know who V is, because V is anybody. V can be anybody, and that's when she puts on the mask, another mask. So I thought it was sort of like an homage in a way to that.
Yeah.
It was a way of doing that without doing that. And it was definitely
I think it's more of an homage than that. It's like a direct translation, but just a different storytelling device.
It was a more feel good one for sure. It was very feel good, great with like the music and everything, and you're like, oh yeah, and all these people, everything they fought for, like these people finally got their justice, and stuff like that. But
also the music. Can we just talk about how great Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture fit the story perfectly?
Anytime I hear that song, I can't not think about V for Vendetta because it was used so well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning and at the end.
It's so heroic.
Yeah.
And just even the cannon fire at the end and the fireworks. It was the perfect soundtrack.
It takes me back to symphonic band days.
Did you play it?
Class. Yeah. I played the trumpet. I played the 1812 Overture in class.
Yeah.
That's like a legit song.
Yeah. No, I just remember being in the theater and just the loud sound system and just blaring that song, the booms and everything. Yeah, it was a great moment. It was just a great fun experience. I had a lot of fun with this film in the theaters when I first saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I was really, really proud of it, even though I had nothing to do with making it. I was just really proud of it.
Because it represented DC.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, this is how you do movies. Because at the time, Marvel was putting out Fantastic Four and stuff like that.
Daredevil.
Yeah,
it's nice when a movie has something to say and it's also very narratively satisfying.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often. You get that. I experienced enormous levels of catharsis when I was watching this movie.
Really?
Just all the characters, the flashback people, the people that he saved, V his character himself. Just his whole revenge, redemption, the fact that he's not a perfect hero. He's a very flawed person.
Yeah.
And then the voice, but it's that they made you feel so much for all the characters. I just loved it. I just thought it was perfectly done.
Yeah.
All right, quick story breakdown. Okay, so the movie opens up with Evie's introduction to Guy Fawkes, who in 1605 tried to blow up the Houses of Parliament, which I appreciated because they never really went into that in the book, just sort of the history of Guy Fawkes.
Is Alan more British?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's super British.
Is that so? Is that bombing
mean?
of Parliament? Was that just kind of common history knowledge?
I think
for
it's
a British audience.
I think it's a children's nursery rhyme. Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I see no reason the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. I don't know if there's more to it than that, but I think it's a children's thing. It's sort of Ring Around the Rosie.
So
or
well known in that country.
Yeah. So after that scene, Evie's narration kind of gives us this this concept of a guy representing an idea, which I thought was really well written. So after that, we get into the whole Lewis Prothero thing, and V and Evie are getting ready for the night. That whole Lewis Prothero kind of thing sets the setting of what this dystopian sort of future version of the UK is. Evie goes out after curfew, which was dumb. What are you doing? She's saved by V, which to me is still one of the greatest introductions to a hero figure in comics. Even from everything down to the sound editing to the angles to just the dialogue and everything. He uses every V word in the dictionary except for vagina.
You could have squeezed it.
I was just waiting for it. I was like, where is it? Where is it?
You're 19-year-old self.
It's coming. No, actually, I remember we saw this down at the Colorado Center on the IMAX screen when the first time we saw it.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to smack somebody in the theater upside the head more than when the guy in front of me, he started shouting the alliteration thing.
He had it memorized?
He had the entire thing memorized, and he was speaking along with it.
Oh,
He was speaking so loudly.
Wait.
That's the worst.
That's not in the book. How could he have done that?
I have no idea, but he was doing it. I don't think we saw opening night, so maybe he just memorized it somehow. But he was doing it, and I remember being impressed on the screen and simultaneously annoyed by the kid that was shouting it.
You just shouldn't go to movie theaters. I just wish they let us stream stuff theatrical releases into our homes because people annoy you.
But no, yeah, great.
It was a perfect setup for his character, and just the way that Hugo Weaving is able to act through that monologue.
Yeah,
it's so good. I almost forgot the mask was even there after the first 10 seconds.
Oh yeah, totally. There's a lot of passion there. From when when he's scraping the V against the sign to when he's saying like God, I don't play with dice and I don't believe in coincidence.
It's Shakespearean.
Yeah.
So Shakespearean.
They do not dumb it down for the audience.
No.
That is a hard pitch, I think, to have that monologue.
Oh, for
that's
sure.
That's a lot of $5 words.
Yeah.
And they don't give a fuck about your audience understanding of it. Like you get his entire motivation almost in that monologue.
Yeah.
So you're saying that monologue is not in the book?
Nope.
What? Well, kudos to the Wachowskis.
Yeah, seriously. Good for them.
Because it actually makes sense.
In a way, I think it's sort of like because like every chapter there's a whole bunch of like V play in the book, like from the number 5 to like every chapter starts with the letter V. It's followed by a word, and I think it was just sort of a play on that, just how invested he is and how perfect something so simple as the letter V can be tied into like everything that's going on.
Going back to the Shakespeare thing, when I read Shakespeare, I don't always understand it. But when you perform Shakespeare, you have to perform it in a way like you do understand it,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I think that was almost the case here, where you have to really get the context, because there's a lot of $5 words in this, and I didn't completely understand what he was saying the first time I saw the movie. I had to, turn on the subtitles when I had it at home in order to understand it.
But you do get that context, like you know that he knows what they mean.
Yes.
And you kind of get the emotion from his own performance, I guess.
Yeah, and he recites it in a just perfectly.
Yeah, for sure. Then of course V takes Evie to go see him blow up the Old Bailey, which in the book he blows up Parliament right off the bat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he saved.
Really?
Yeah.
Then what's his big end game a year later?
At the very end, I think he blows up like the equivalent of the White House.
Margaret Thatcher's house?
I don't
The
think
Queen's house?
I don't think it's called. No, it's not the
Royal
Queen's
Palace?
It's like the
No.
Downing Street or whatever, wherever the
Yeah. Like 18th Downing Street or something like that. Yeah.
Oh.
And it's not even him who does it; it's Evie.
Oh.
Well, sort of, just like the movie. Anyway, so Chancellor Sutler and the government heads are freaked out to discuss what happened with the explosion. We meet Creedy and Finch, and they're told to find the terrorist. The BTN spins the explosion as a demolition, and Evie works at the BTN, and it's there that V takes the broadcasting station over while strapped to a bomb.
I have to say, the way the media spin is portrayed in this movie makes me angry, because I know that shit happens in real life.
Oh yeah.
Like,
even more now. Like I didn't back then. I would not have said that that fake news is real.
right, fake news wasn't even a term back when this movie came out.
No.
They were way ahead of that. I very much had a idealistic newsroom sense of newscasting
Yes.
back when this movie came out.
Yeah.
And the nature of news has become so much about perspective as opposed to facts nowadays.
Spin, yeah.
It's all spin. It
Yeah.
pisses me off.
Yeah. NPR, man. NPR.
That's why this film feels more relevant to me now.
Yeah.
One of the reasons.
Definitely one of the reasons. Finch and Stone trace Evie to the BTN. V broadcasts his message, claiming responsibility for the explosion and encouraging Brighton citizens to rise up against their government and meet him at the Houses of Parliament in 1 year.
I was like, oh look, Anonymous is in the movies now.
What did you think about the 5 groups of people that they kept going back to throughout the movie? There's a few different families. There's a group of guys at a bar. There's a nursing home.
Well, the guys in the bar are supposed to physically represent. They're almost dead ringers for Alan Moore and David Lloyd.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
That's true. Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that was when you mentioned surrealism earlier. That was the one part of this movie that felt a little surreal. Is everyone's watching TV all the time, and it's and you keep going back to these same people, and they're all just glued to the TV. I don't know. It's just it was just funny. It was disorienting, I guess.
I don't know if that was commentary, but yeah, it was a little surreal.
Well, yeah, I know in the book, not everyone was watching, because Evie had already escaped V by the time he broadcast that message, and I shouldn't say escaped. She didn't see it. He escapes. V then escapes with a genius plan of dressing everyone up as him, which I thought was awesome.
Yes,
I thought that was such a great action scene, such a badass scene. Just V with knives. It was. I really liked it. Great action.
The close up of V with that guy's face.
Yeah.
And then he turns around and the guy spits up blood.
Yeah.
It's perfect composition.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And it's just perfect movement too. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was Hugo Weaving doing that.
His
but
hair
the hair.
All of his choreography for it. It's so good.
Yeah. It's was that CG hair? Because there's no way hair is that badass.
Well, here's the thing. As an actor, how do you hit your mark that well
in a mask?
In a mask like that? Because Can he see out of that thing?
Well, he must.
Do you think it's Hugo Weaving that entire time?
Do
you think he did all those action beats?
No.
Maybe not the action beats. But I think, it has to be him. Because just the performance. There's no one else who could have acted, no stunt guy who could have acted that well. Or, delivered that amount of emotion with a mask. The action scene, it's like one of the two major action scenes in the movie. It was just so well done. I really liked it. Evie helps him escape, which was interesting. It's another one of the things where I'm like, really? Like, she knew that was wrong. I don't know. The media lies to the public saying V was killed during his attempted escape. Evie wakes up in the Shadow Gallery and is told that she has to stay there. We learn a little bit more about Evie's past and V's plan over breakfast. I really like the line where Evie's like, well, how are you going to, like, change things by blowing up a building? And he explains that the building is a symbol, as is the act of destroying it. It's just good writing. I really liked it.
You know what else is really good? Eggy in a basket. It's delicious. I just had to say that. Sorry.
That line is actually, I think, almost the thesis for the film itself.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think in the age of, like Black Lives Matter, there's kind of a sentiment of that protesting is bad. But I feel like this movie really presents the case for why protest and even violence can be used for good and why it might be necessary.
Well, he says that line explicitly, violence can be used for good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
V uses Evie's work badge to gain access to Prothero, whom he kills.
This is that part is the one minor plot hole in the film. Would her badge really have given him access to Prothero's private apartments?
That's true. Why would just anybody with media access gets to walk in on him showering?
That's true. That's true.
It's a minor thing.
I wouldn't say it's the one plot hole because there's actually I would say there's quite a few plot holes, but it's I didn't even think about that.
Darn, you're right.
Darn.
That's not just the one. Yeah.
It's not a perfect film. It's just a really good one.
Yeah. It turns out that Prothero was a major shareholder in a pharmaceutical company. Finch learns that. Evie is devastated upon learning that V has killed Prothero. And that's where we get the line where violence can be used for good. And V introduces her to the Count of Monte Cristo, which I love that story. I love that movie. And I love the fact that this movie called it out because they didn't do that in the book. Finch and Stone try to get more information on Lark Hill, where Prothero worked, and they eventually get a list of employees. Evie formulates a plan to escape V by offering her help, which, again, was that genuine? I don't know. She helps V kill a pedophile bishop, who also worked at Lark Hill, and Creedy gets involved and warns Finch to stop looking into Lark Hill.
I like that they kind of call out the best records are tax records.
Yes. Yeah, I laughed at that line.
They find the people to look for because of payroll, basically.
Right.
Was that a Wachowski line or a line from the book?
That was a Wachowski line.
Nice.
There's some good lines in here. That bishop, that whole scene disturbed me. I don't know if Natalie Portman...
Pedophilia is gross.
Yeah.
Catholic Church is gross. It's all of it.
It was very gross. Evie escapes and goes to Dietrich, who shows her a secret collection of illegal items and reveals he is gay. Again, he's so different from in the book. V kills Dr. Surge, a former scientist from Lark Hill, in her sleep, which was crazy. And just like in the book, she's like, "Are you going to kill me now?" He's like, "I did 10 minutes ago." It's like, oh, snap.
And she's like, "Thank God."
That's a good line.
Yeah.
That's a really good line. Actually, I liked her character a lot.
Yeah, me too.
She represented someone who gets caught up doing something bad for the sake of progress.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very science-y kind of villain.
Yeah. And it's sort of almost a call back to or no, because he wrote Watchmen after this, I think, where Ozymandias is like, "I already blew up New York 10 minutes ago.
Right.
I already did. There's nothing you can do about it."
I like how she kind of slowly justifies her dehumanization of the victims at Lark Hill.
Oh yeah.
Because she starts out.
It's believable.
You can tell that she's a decent person,
Yeah.
But and she sees as they become more and more degenerate, she finds herself hating them. They don't look her in the eye.
Yeah.
So you can see the way that she starts to distance herself from their humanity.
Her psyche probably has to do that just because of the horrible things they're doing. She kept a diary where we learn all of this, which Finch gets and reads. We learned that Lark Hill was a concentration camp the government used to develop and test a weaponized virus. And those were some disturbing images as well. Mm-hmm. Disturbing. They're hard to watch because that they're pulling references from real life. Things that have really happened, the Holocaust and stuff like that.
The pits and the
right.
bodies. Yeah.
Ugh, yeah. And even things that America has done, like in Vietnam, like the pits, we did those. All of Surge's subjects died except for the man in room 5V who blows up Larkhill. Finch realizes that the government was responsible for the virus that plagued Europe.
And so the virus that they were testing, like, enhanced V somehow?
Yes. Yeah.
That was never really clear either.
No, it was
kind of a throwaway line.
Yeah, it was more clear in the book. Like
what are his actual abilities?
His intelligence was enhanced. His strength and speed were enhanced. His reflexes. He became, it was like a super soldier.
He was like Captain America.
Sort of. Yeah. He's definitely faster. He doesn't feel pain. What else was it? I think that was it. But also,
what was their intention? Did they want to make an army of super soldiers, or did this just like randomly affect him?
It just randomly affected him that way. All the progress that they were able to make on the virus was because of him, which is one reason I think, V's vendetta against those who tortured him isn't just like to get revenge on what they did to him and those who he was imprisoned with, but also because I think he feels like somewhat responsible for the success of the virus. And so he sort of like,
Yeah. Because like it was because of him that they were able to advance it.
Right, and all those people died and stuff like that, yeah.
You know what? I shouldn't say that scene reminded me of Deadpool, because this movie came out before Deadpool. But it did kind of like they were both in facilities. They both got superpowers, and then it exploded, and then they were like charred bodies escaping.
Well, we've mentioned like in our Deadpool review, we mentioned like V for Vendetta in terms of like Ryan Reynolds' performance behind a mask.
Did we?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
He has the advantage of like CG eyes.
That's
CG,
true.
Yeah, exactly.
Furrowed brow. Perfect cheekbones.
Once Finch learns that the government was responsible, he that's when he sort of poses that question to Dominic Stone, like, if your government did something horrible, would you really want to know? Which I remember that line being a lot in the marketing for the film. And it was just like, it was definitely like a callback like to what is going on currently in the Bush era. Like, if we did these horrible things, if we killed Saddam Hussein and invaded Iraq,
even though he had nothing to do with 9/11,
right? If we did something like horrible and stuff, would you really want to know the truth?
Lie to your own people,
right?
Yeah,
right. And even with like 9/11 conspiracies and stuff like that, would you really want to know? I think that resonated, at least it resonated with me at the time. So after the people of Britain are beginning to rally behind V, you start to see like spray painted V signs. Much to the government's dismay, Chancellor Sutler begins pissing off Creedy by calling him incompetent and stuff like that. Dietrich cooks eggs in a basket for Evie after this, which why?
It's just a callback parallel to her dinner or breakfast with.
Right, but why? I never got that scene.
That's a good question. Like I don't know. Like when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this guy's like one of V's partners or something.
Yeah. And in a film that like talks so much about like coincidence and stuff like that, and how like there are no coincidences, I don't understand why they would include something like that in the film, and even like blatantly call it out like, oh, this is so weird. V did the exact same thing for me, like and didn't go anywhere. It didn't lead to anything. It's just one of those things where it's like, why? He mocks Chancellor Sutler on the satirical bit on his show, which. Again, why? There are two major things that like really confuse me in this film. One of them being why they decided to use John Hurt in that role of the like the fake John Hurt being mocked.
Oh, you think it should have been like somebody else wearing a John Hurt an office mask?
Yeah. It should have been someone wearing like a Chancellor Sutler mask.
Well, the movie takes place in the future, so they just have really good prosthetic technology.
I guess. Like you could definitely you could see like the makeup line. So I guess you could argue that it was a different performance just with Chancellor Sutler's face imposed. But like that's super fucking confusing for an audience member.
Because you think it's really him? Or...
Yeah, exactly.
Well, maybe John Hurt really wanted to do that part in the movie, just so he's not spending the entire time screaming at a camera.
Maybe.
It is odd, given how restrictive everything else is, that he was even able to get away with filming it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, did everybody else involved in that production, including the cameraman?
They all got black bagged.
Yeah, did they all get black bagged?
Right.
The guy in the gorilla suit, did he get black bagged?
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was more interesting, like, during that scene, they show Chancellor Sutler's reaction to it, but they don't show his face. They just show him, like, crushing the glass of milk. Why not show him there so you understand the guy he's seeing himself on the screen. I don't know. It was just a weird decision making there, I thought. This, of course, leads to Creedy blackbagging Dietrich and Evie being captured. Evie is interrogated and tortured over the whereabouts of V. She finds a letter written by a lesbian actress named Valerie Page. The note moves Evie to maintain her integrity and gives her the courage to face her inevitable death. Her imprisonment was a ruse by V to help her grow.
So powerful.
Yeah.
And like
so
maybe like one of the most powerful scenes ever in a movie.
I would agree. I mean, that line when she says, like, your integrity is like the last inch of you, and it's the only thing you really have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So such good writing.
Really good writing. And that whole thing, line for line, was taken from the book.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If I ever have to do something like really important in life, I want to watch that scene before I do it.
What?
It's just rousing.
Inspiration.
Yeah.
It makes me want to get my ass up off the couch when I'm watching a movie and just go do anything.
Yeah. Following that, like, once she learns, again, really powerful performance by Natalie Portman, I think. And it's just a great visual when she goes up on the roof and she sort of has, like, that baptism, like, / rebirth by rain. And, you know, they explicitly contrast that with V's sort of, like, birth by fire with the explosion of Lark Hill.
Yeah,
that was really
back
good
and forth
imagery.
between the two.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Yeah, really.
I wish that one, the slow-mo scene of the rain, like the top-down, zoom-down.
Yeah.
I wish that would have been, like, longer. Because it was the only scene that was stylized like that in that whole sequence. Everything else is, you know, not in bullet time.
Yeah.
And it's really short. It's only like a second or two.
The music was really powerful during that.
Yeah, that's a great song. And it's been used in other trailers and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just a well-written piece of music.
Yeah.
I think that that perspective shot of the raindrop coming down played a lot into her line where she said, "God is in the rain." Mm-hmm. Everything.
Yeah. Evie learns that Valerie was real and sort of like a major component to V's whole vendetta. He wants to punish those who hurt her. Finch meets William Rockwood, which to me, this is like the big, like, weird decision-making
This
part
was
number
confusing
2.
to me.
Because the audience knows it's V.
It's like his voice is very clear.
Yeah, they know it's Hugo Weaving. You're not supposed to know that.
Really?
And I don't think that character was in the book. I don't remember him being in the book.
I felt like we were supposed to know that, but the detective wasn't supposed to know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The audience is definitely supposed to know that.
I think it would have been better if the audience didn't know that. It's just that Hugo Weaving's voice is so distinct.
I think it would be too random to be like, who the fuck's this guy?
Yeah. Like, why would this random person be approaching him with all this information?
Yeah.
I think you kind of lose the impact of, like, what he's saying, though, and, you know, what it means. Like, is the whole story a deception? Was it really Creedy's idea to test the virus on their own people?
Or do you think B's lying?
Is he? I don't know.
I don't think he is.
You know, the character may have been in the book now that I think about it. I can't remember. Anyway, just I wish that they maybe would have gone to a little bit extra lengths to sort of disguise that it was Hugo Weaving.
No, I like that.
Okay.
We knew that it was. I like that.
Because you're never supposed to see V's face, like, ever. And they got, like, really just a little bit too close for comfort right there, I thought. Because you could even see, like, some of the scarring, you know. He's supposed to be everybody, I guess. Finch ends up learning that Rockwood was V. He gets, you know, pissed off, but he still sort of keeps that, like, distrust of his government. He's slowly becoming more and more disillusioned. So Creedy is put under surveillance at the request of Rookwood, and V makes a deal with Creedy to capture Sutler.
I think it was at this point that the story got a little bit more convoluted than it needed to be.
Yeah.
With the whole X on the door and, you know, you have guys who are close to Chancellor Sutler, and so you could bring him. I don't know. It was just, I think they could have wrote around that part a little bit, and it still would have been effective.
So, you know, as they get closer to November 5th, V distributes thousands of Guy Fawkes masks, and the population, you know, questions the party rule as the nation slowly descends into anarchy. I found that funny for some reason when, like, he was, like, robbing, like, the clerk or the grocery store with the Guy Fawkes mask. I don't know. And the little girl, oh, it's so sad. The little girl, why?
Yeah, they beat the shit out of that finger, man.
Yeah.
That had, like, a Black Lives Matter kind of feel to it. So weird that it was able to, like...
Oh, how, like, the cop killed an innocent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then people started getting riled up because of that.
Yeah. So on the eve of November 5th, Evie visits V, and he takes her to the train. He sort of like, tells her it's up to her to decide what to do with all these explosives on this train. It's not for me. He essentially foreshadows his own death. He knows he's going to die and tells her that, like, in this new world, you need to make that decision because you're going to be a part of it and I'm not.
Yeah, that was a great bit of writing right there.
Yeah.
I like how when he goes to leave to face Creedy and he knows he's going to die and Evie pleads with him not to go. It was kind of like a nice callback to what she had mentioned about the Count of Monte Cristo. Like, she liked the movie, but she felt bad for Mercedes because the Count cared more about his revenge than he did about her.
Yeah.
And I think she found out in that point that V cares more about his revenge than he cares about her. He doesn't want to stay with her. He wants to fulfill his mission. So there was a nice, like, a little bit of full circleness happening there.
I don't know, because also, like, in a sense, like, at the end, he does sort of profess his love for her.
Yeah, the love story is weird.
Yeah, that's shoehorned in.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, like, he says that he fell in love with her, and yet doesn't care or doesn't do anything about it the entire time. It's almost like he's at that moment, he's, like, dying, right? This is after the confrontation with Creedy.
Yeah, when he says that
he comes back and he's like, oh, I'm dying, but now I'm going to say that I love you. And so even though I'm dead, like, now it's your decision. Now because I'm dying and I love you, you get to make the decision for the train.
No pressure.
Right, right.
What did you want to happen?
I still hate that. They shouldn't have done that. Because again, to me, like, V is Evie's father. If it has to be anybody, if I had to, like, choose who V would be, it would be her father.
They kind of hint at, like, multiple people along the way in a quick little montage at the end when he asks her, like, who was he? And she says he was Edmond Dantes. And he was my father and stuff like that. They cut to a few characters that V could have been, I think.
I think that was just saying that he's all of us,
Oh.
He's my father who was an activist and who died. He was...
Because I knew she had a brother, too.
Yeah, she didn't have a brother in the
Although
book.
I guess the fact that he says that he loves her definitely negates all of that. So, yeah, I think I read too much into it.
After the train thing, he goes off to meet Creedy, who's exchanging Sutler for V's surrender. Creedy executes Sutler, and V sort of, like, is like, joke's on you, I'm not going to surrender after all. I'm going to kill all of you guys before you guys even reload or whatever. Which is, like, they wand him. They do, like, a metal detector wand on him.
Oh, they do. That's right. Right before.
And then, for some reason, he's also wearing armor, we learn, like, after the whole
metal
battle.
armor, and he has those metal knives. You think, why didn't any of that get picked up? I thought that, too, actually. And
maybe their sensor is not sensing metal.
Maybe it's sensing
so
guns.
Or
something. I'm just making sure he didn't have guns.
Yeah. That was a really cool action scene.
Yeah.
Like, after they kill Sutler and V refuses to go willingly.
Well, it's the trail on the knives, I think. I think that's what makes it cool.
V is also just a badass, where he's just like...
You'll all be dead before you've reloaded.
Yeah, that whole thing.
And that actually is what happens. Like, he lets them shoot him until they're out of ammo, and then he goes with the knives.
Yeah. That is not in the book. In the book, Finch, just like in the movie, he makes his way down to the underground because the LSD told him to do that. And then he finds, like, V and him sort of, like, run into each other. And Finch shoots V.
Oh.
And then that's when V tells Finch, like, you can't kill an idea. Ideas are bulletproof. Then he just walks away. But Finch notices that he leaves a trail of blood. And he's like, oh, he's flesh and blood after all. I've killed him. I've killed you. So it's Finch who actually kills V at the end.
Oh, that sucks. I don't like that.
So V kills all the guys. V kills Creedy. V goes back to Evie, professes his love. He dies. That's when Finch arrives on the train.
Pulls the gun on Evie.
He pulls the gun on Evie, and like she essentially says, like, things need to change. Let them change. He does. She sends the train into the Parliament building as everyone is marching on the this military force, and without any orders. Creedy is dead. The Chancellor is dead. Everyone's fucking dead in the government. They don't do anything. They let the people pass, and everyone witnesses the blowing up of the Parliament building as V promised.
I want to know what they do after that, though.
What?
Well, I mean, obviously something's going to happen because
They're gonna form a new government.
Yeah, they're gonna form a new government. But like, I don't know. You go there and you're like, oh shit, the building just got blown up. We gotta clean this up now.
I'm not doing it.
I'm not doing it.
It's like they say like in Game of Thrones, like Game of Thrones is what happens after the revolution.
Oh yeah. Essentially,
it just everything is more
because there's all that backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah, just more people trying to fight for power.
Mm-hmm. It just like never ends. Like revolution just leads to the next one.
That's sad. I'm sad now.
The point of the movie
don't say
is
that.
not that.
I mean, that's...
By the end, you're so invested in this happening, and you almost they inject just enough doubt, like maybe it won't happen.
Yeah.
Maybe these people don't need to die or whatever, but that it does, and the building blows up, and like the people rise up, and like everything you want to happen happens. It's like total wish fulfillment.
It's a very satisfying ending. Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, I definitely left the theater just super proud. Super proud. If I had to rate the film, I would give it 4.5 stars out of 5 stars. It's not a perfect film, but it's almost a perfect film. To me, it's again, social science fiction at its near best. I was really happy with the film when I saw it.
Yeah, usually we reserve like 5-star films for movies that are more influential within the medium and the genre. And this one, I feel like it didn't influence a whole lot, which is surprising. I feel like if this film came out more today, we'd see a lot more films like it. But back then, it was such a controversial film, and it dealt with a lot of like hot-button topics that I think a lot of people were afraid to kind of follow in its footsteps.
Did it make very much money? Do you know?
It made a decent amount. The studio made their money.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't like a flop or anything like that.
Yeah, but I would agree. Like, I think people were almost even afraid to talk about it at the time.
Yeah.
Like, most people saw it and liked it, but I didn't hear... I mean, I was also, like, a kid, but I didn't really hear a lot of discussion about it.
Because terrorism was such a bad word at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, it still is.
And I think it's more suited to its viewing audience now, I think. I think now a lot of people are much more disillusioned with, like, the state than they were back then, like, at least in popular opinion. And so the idea of, like, a terrorist being an actual hero is probably a lot more palatable now than it was, 10 years ago.
Yeah. I think there needs to be a movie like V for Vendetta made today.
Yeah, maybe. I hope they don't remake it. Holy cow.
No, not this movie.
Okay. No, I think like it may not have been influential in like other films of the genre. Like it may not have. It did. I think it elevated the genre in the sense that it's just a really good movie and well-made movie.
And has something to say.
But you can't deny its impact on culture. I mean...
With Anonymous?
With Anonymous, and not just Anonymous, just like protesters and people who want revolution, people who want change. It's definitely become its, again, like you were saying, its own meme, its own symbol.
Yeah. Well, do you see protesters wearing these masks?
Yeah.
It, not currently, but the 99%. That was
Wall Street.
Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street.
Occupy was there very much more than masks.
I was reading about this film, and actually this film like inspired quite a bit of protests, like the Egyptian protest, and people were wearing masks there. This mask is actually illegal now, I think, in Dubai.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. That's awesome.
Yeah. Maybe it was more influential when we were just too young, Like we were in high school.
Yeah.
This came out.
I think
you in college.
I think maybe it was even more influential, just like in places where it's needed.
Yeah.
Maybe more than it is here. Perhaps.
I almost wish it could have some sort of like American resurgence, like if the film came back in some popular culture way, because I think if people should watch it again. I think it's kind of disappeared from the cultural consciousness, but
yeah,
I think if they did watch it again, they would be so amazed at how well it holds up.
I almost think, I don't know, it's almost become like, I don't know too much about Anonymous. I'm not sure like where they align on the political spectrum and how much I agree with them or whatever.
You seen
but I think it's
Robot. What is it?
Mr. Robot? Oh, Mr. Robot. Yeah.
It deals pretty heavily with that. It's worth a watch.
Oh, really? Oh, like a hacktivist, right?
Yeah.
But I think like it's just become so synonymous with other things that I don't know if you could re-release it.
Maybe just us talking about it. We'll get it out there. Spread the word.
This is a super popular show, you guys.
If you're listening to this podcast, watch the movie again. Tell all your friends to watch the movie again, and then tell them to tell their friends to watch the movie again. It'll just spread.
I definitely enjoyed revisiting it for sure because it had been a while since I had seen it. So,
I give it 4.5 stars as well.
Yeah, cool. Mike, what would you say?
Oh gosh, objectively, I think I have to agree with you 4.5. For me, this is like a 5-star film though, and like even though we've kind of picked apart some of the plot discrepancies, I think like films are in such a medium that you have to cheat to tell your story, and I think the success of a film is how well you can do that, how well you can hide the plot holes. And for me, this movie hides the plot holes. Like they don't bother me at all. Like when I'm watching it.
I agree. Like you even brought up some that like I never even thought about. Yeah, it definitely hides them well.
Yeah. So, and just for me, like, it's so rare anymore for a movie to be something that's really meaningful just on an intellectual level that doesn't patronize their audience and, like, really makes you feel something. That just doesn't happen very often. So for me, this is like a 5-star film.
It's like high art. It makes you feel. It makes you think.
Yeah.
And it also has the benefit of just being fun to watch. Honestly, I think if I didn't read the book, I wouldn't have noticed, like, any plot holes.
Like, the story is just complicated enough to take a rewatch, even to be a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
But it holds together like really well, I think.
Yeah, it does for sure.
Yeah, well, the first time I saw it, it almost unfolds in reverse, the whole conspiracy, because they're talking about things like St. Mary's and Three Waters. Like I'm supposed to know anything about it.
Yeah.
And then I learned about it later. But on second viewing, I knew what the stuff was, so it was a lot more enjoyable for me on second viewing. I was less confused.
Yeah, I think the first time I saw it, it was not the movie I expected it to be. It took a couple times for it to really grow on me. Mm-hmm. Because like I said, I really thought it was going to be more of like a Matrix style action film. And it really wasn't.
I think a lot of people.
That's how it was marketed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I know, like I mean, this film did well critically. I think it has like a 70 something on Rotten Tomatoes. So not the best, but it definitely wasn't like Suicide Squad. But the people who did sort of like harp on it, they were saying like, it was just another Matrix film and blah blah blah.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they watch it?
They said the same thing about Constantine though.
I went through Rotten Tomatoes after watching it yesterday just to see what people had said about it at the time, and I feel like most of the Rotten reviews came from like heavily conservative publications.
Yeah, they were saying that it was overly political.
Yeah,
and that the political commentary was like pretty too on the nose.
Right.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Right. Exactly.
That's what the book was.
So yeah, I felt like it kind of divided along
political lines.
Yeah, political lines a little bit. Yeah.
Surprising to no one.
Yeah, such a great film. I'm extremely jealous that
It's
Marvel hasn't put out something that's like this.
No, Marvel just puts out like brightly colored candy.
Cotton candy.
Yeah, cotton candy.
DC got extremely lucky, I just have to say, in the fact that they acquired this story.
Alan Moore was writing for DC, and he was doing like Swamp Thing and Watchmen.
Like you guys always say, I mean, DC seems to be more concerned with a philosophical take on their characters and having a little bit more of a deeper meaning, I think, to some of their plots and stories.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing that we could get out of this review is never read the books. Just watch the movies.
Just watch the movies, yeah.
It's a rare thing when the film improves upon its original material. And I think that might be the case here. I haven't read it myself, but just kind of from the way we've been talking about
the book. There's just so many more threads and so many more characters and stuff. But again, like I said, I would say the movie is better, honestly. And Alan Moore is probably going to hate me for saying that. I'm so sorry, Alan Moore.
Alan Moore is extremely concerned about what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, I know.
He's listening to this podcast.
Like bathing through his gold and his money.
All right. I think that does it for this review.
Yeah. Yep.
I want to thank you so much, Mike, for participating in this review. I think you provided a lot of interesting insights, and I love that it's one of your favorite films because it is definitely one of mine now. So,
thanks for having me, guys. This was awesome. It was super fun.
Yeah. We'll have to have you on again for... Yeah. They need to make more political superhero films.
Maybe in a year and a half from now when you have one more slot in your schedule.
Another year and a half wait. All right, yeah. Let's wrap this up before your voice completely goes.
Yep.
Joseph.
Yep, it's gone.
The wrap up.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. All right. I think that is a wrap for this episode.
Why did we talk so long? I'm dying.
Poor bastard. Please, before we end the episode, don't forget to subscribe. Whatever you're listening to us on, whatever platform, please subscribe to us and please tell your friends about us.
Yes, please.
Spread the word. If you want to leave us a review, that would be awesome, super awesome. Just to let even more people who are just skimming the various podcast platforms.
I'm sacrificing my voice here. The least that you could do is tell your friends.
That'd be awesome. Also, we have our store up on our website. If you go to dynamicduel.com, we have a link to some of our t-shirt merchandise, various DC and Marvel artwork. It's pretty cool. I have a few of the shirts. I wear them all the time. You should too. Next week, what are we doing next week? I don't even know.
It's going to be a dual episode.
Oh, that's right. Flash versus Quicksilver. I'm looking forward to that one. Flash is going to win. I already know. But I'm going to have fun stomping your ass.
You may be pleasantly surprised.
We'll see. I know Quicksilver's strong. Mm-hmm. But whatever. We'll see. Until then, up, and away.
True believers.